Some of the most fragile ecosystems are found where the ocean meets the land. And no matter how fast the world manages to curb its carbon emissions, sea levels are going to rise. And 300 million people will be at the risk of flooding by 2050. Hello and welcome to Eco India. Today we'll focus on the vulnerability of our coasts. I'm Sanuta Raghu, coming to you from Mumbai. The state of Kerala, which sits on the southwestern corner of the Indian peninsula, is the first to receive the onslaught of the monsoon showers at the end of May every year. We visited a traditional weaving community in central Kerala, which lost tons of cloth, hand-woven by its weavers in the debilitating floods of 2018. How they've turned this misery into an object of hope will definitely surprise you.
This miniature doll has become a symbol of hope and resilience for the people of Kerala who survived a devastating deluge that hit the state in 2018. It's called Chekutti, and each one is made by hand from handloom materials that were drenched beyond repair in the floodwaters.
When I looked the fabric, which was chlorinated and cleaned, it still had stains and scars in it. And I could see that it was a true reflection of every Malayali those days, because wherever you go, you could see stains, and in every heart there's a scar.
In August 2018, Kerala saw catastrophic flooding that cost more than 400 people their lives and 5 million people their homes and livelihoods. The weavers of the traditional handloom capital of Chendamangalam suffered damages that were estimated to be around 150 million rupees or close to 2 million euros. It left them paralyzed. All the equipment was destroyed. They were broken to the point that we felt there was no way we could salvage them. I was the one who arrived first and I saw the dire condition. I remember thinking our weaving days are over. We would have to start from scratch, and that was unlikely. Chendamangalam's traditional handlooms are made by around 500 artisans who for generations have been weaving textiles with a fine, rare type of cotton yarn that is hardly found in India today. Like 80-year-old Rajan, who sings to the rhythm of his 6-foot frame loom. With his wife Tangamani, he weaves a traditional male outfit called a Chendamangalam Mundu that is completely eco-friendly and has earned a certificate from the Government of India. Soon after the floods, Cochin-based designer Shalini James got in touch with the weavers. Supported by her network of designer friends, she dry cleaned some of the fabric and also managed to raise funds for the community through its sale.
What it did for the society was that it boosted their confidence. It gave the weavers some light of hope that, there are people out there, people they've never seen or heard of before, who are interested in keeping Chendamangalam handloom alive.
The problem they faced was that a large quantity of their fabric had been damaged beyond repair and had become worthless.
This is how it will be draped.
Lakshmi Menon is one of 2 designers who came up with the Chekutti project to make dolls from the fabric that could be saved. They encouraged people to not only buy the dolls, but also participate in making them.
these are the different types of Chekuti dolls that was actually made in 9 countries by around 50,000 volunteers. The expression, the decoration, everything is different in each. Actually, that makes it all the more, beautiful. People are very keen to be part of it because they feel that if they make one Chekuti doll, they also have put one brick in rebuilding Kerala.
And the dolls even proved more profitable than the original fabric.
If you buy a fresh saree from Chendamangalam, you'll get it for 1,200 to 1,500. But you can make around 350 dolls from one such saree, and priced at ₹25 makes it 9,000 from a saree. So the saree that was supposed to be burnt was generating 9,000 from one piece.
One of the 5 handloom societies that contributed to the Chekuti doll had lost fabric worth over 2 million rupees or 27,000 euros in the floods. But the sale of the dolls brought in almost 350,000 rupees or 43,000 euros for the weavers in just 4 months. They now take pride in their new identity. People knew of our work as the weavers of Chendamangalam. But now, because of Chekuti, more people are interested in finding out more about us and what we do. As Kerala prepares for climate change-induced floods again next year, perhaps the Chekuti dolls represent a tiny testament to the state's resilient spirit.
Any more construction here on Mumbai's coast could only prove to be a gamble. Global warming could drive a much more dramatic increase in sea levels than anticipated. New research has found that we might be underestimating just how many people will be affected by the rising seas.
The independent science and news organization Climate Central estimates that the number of people who will be affected by flooding could soon be 3 times higher than previously believed. The new study predicts that by 2050, as many as 340 million people could be affected by rising sea levels. Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, is sinking faster than any other city in the world, at the alarming rate of over 15 centimeters per year. In fact, Indonesia recently announced plans to relocate its capital to the forested island of Borneo. One reason is the threat of disappearing under the rising waters of the Java Sea. Apart from evacuating cities, several countries have engineered solutions like flood barriers and seawalls. But experts are increasingly saying that nature-based solutions are far more likely to help protect vulnerable coastal ecosystems. Groups on the Gulf of Mexico have begun replanting the vanishing mangrove forests there. In India, divers are helping coral reefs regenerate, and around the world, people have joined campaigns against overfishing to maintain ocean ecosystems. These and other efforts could give coastlines a fighting chance against rising sea levels.
The diverse habitats of the Baltic Sea, between the land and the waves, between fresh water and salt water, provide the best possible living conditions for many animals and plant species. However, tourism, agriculture and the fishing industry have damaged the habitats of the shallow inland sea. Not just that, the sea eats away at the German island of Usedom. At the narrowest part, the sea is now threatening to divide the island into 2.
This coastline is being repaired in a way that simulates nature. Several tons of sand are pumped out onto the beach. The sand was taken from the sea floor further off the coast. It will produce a 5-metre-high sand dune designed to protect this stretch of Baltic Sea coastline. 2 years ago, powerful storms caused significant damage. The sea rushed in, washing away the sand dune that used to be here and more besides. Sigvart Schmidt oversaw the planning of the new sand dune.
This part of the island of Usedom has always had coastal erosion because of the way the ocean current flows here. And so to preserve the shape of the coast and the environment, there's a general plan laid down by the state government that we need to protect the coastline using this method.
At the narrowest part of Usedom, the sea is threatening to divide the island in two. The local fishermen can't go out to sea for 3 weeks because of the construction work. They fear their huts, which are right by the water, could be washed away at any time.
This work is certainly better than nothing, but a longer-lasting solution would be better. Be it stone walls, sheet piling, or geotextile tubes. They would definitely stop the sea from coming any further. After a storm, you might bring in a bit more sand, but that's it. All this here costs money, too. But it might only last 6 months or maybe 10 years, but no longer than that.
Wooden posts are also designed to stop the sand being washed away. The final dune will look like this, with plants to keep the sand in place, nothing more. Conservationists like Jochen Lamp believe this is exactly the right solution.
This is the right path to be taking. Using gentle measures to preserve the coast by simulating natural processes. Sand is being brought back here to create a normal sand dune. It's definitely better than using concrete or stone, where you just shift the problem to 200, 300, or 400 meters further along the coast.
The saltwater lagoons on Germany's Baltic Sea coast, known as Bodden, also need protecting. Here too, Jochen Lamp says flat saltwater meadows in keeping with the landscape are sufficient. The Worldwide Fund for Nature and another environmental group have invested €2.5 million to buy up the land and turn it into a haven for endangered plants and animals.
We have an area of 100 hectares. This was farmland, which you can still see. And we're going to give it back to nature. This will be turned back to saltwater meadows. It will provide a natural saltwater habitat for grassland birds and coastal birds.
This entire coastal region was once covered with saltwater meadows. Now there are few such areas. The German state wants to set up 100 square kilometres of additional saltwater meadows. But progress has been slow, with many questioning whether flat wetlands provide sufficient protection against floodwaters.
When the wave rolls in, this will provide a natural break. This area will soon be covered in water. So when you have a storm, the force of the waves will be reduced here, as they meet resistance from this area and then ebb away.
Behind the meadows, low-level dikes provide additional protection to residential areas. The conservationists are hoping the saltwater meadows will protect the coastland effectively and naturally.
Coastal protection is not always about nature conservation. Often the real driver is the money tourism brings in. Last year, the tropical islands of the Maldives in the Indian Ocean received nearly 1.4 million visitors. New hotels and airports to accommodate them are being built at a cost to both nature and locals.
Big corporations and businesses there always seem to win, no matter which government is in power.
Humans won't stop traveling, and reclamation is the only way to be closer to the airport right now. So will there be more coming? Absolutely. Over the next 4 or 5 years, you will have probably another 60, 70 resorts here.
Once these lagoons started developing at once, there will be so much of destruction, sedimentation to the reef, and which would definitely have a negative impact on our islands.
The international airport in the Maldivian capital Male provides a gateway for tourists from all over the world. They're then taken by boat to the resort islands that are just a short distance from the airport. That provides a logistical advantage, especially when storms hit. In just 15 minutes, the visitors arrive in Crossroads, a mega resort made up of 9 islands. A night in one of these bungalows costs €650. 2 years ago, this was all just water. Satellite images reveal how the artificial islands suddenly emerged in the middle of the coral reef lagoon. 2,500 palm trees were brought here from other islands. If you didn't know, you'd think it had all developed naturally. Those in charge of the project are keen to uphold that illusion.
It's still a natural island. The sand literally came from 10 minutes away from here. So ultimately, this is still how islands are formed. All the palm trees are from neighboring islands, very often because they were developing something on the island, say an airstrip or a construction.
The whole issue of artificial islands and replanted palm trees has long caught the attention of the anti-corruption NGO Transparency Maldives. Under a number of deals reached by the previous government, nearly 60 coral lagoons surrounding the capital Male were leased to investors. They are now building more and more artificial islands for tourists. This means the need for palm trees is growing, and they are in short supply, as Maldivian law states that trees mustn't be brought in from abroad.
Why are these trees being transported to the resort, not to the islands where there is no trees? There are so many islands which have been reclaimed for the purposes of expanding the land area for the people to live, and they're completely barren, like they don't have any plants, any trees.
Transparency Maldives says that tourism is given more significance than the environment. The country's Environmental Protection Agency used to assess tourism projects before they were approved, but the previous government changed that.
It's harming the environment, especially if you consider the areas closer to the capital Male. There are a lot of reclamation and island making going on. I think we should not concentrate making resorts near Male. Rather than doing that, we should be focusing on outer atolls.
6 new airports were scheduled to be built this year and next to improve access between the islands. The island of Kulhotufushi was stripped of most of its mangroves to accommodate its airport. But most of the time it stands empty, as it's not really needed. The next airport is just a 20-minute boat ride away. Activists like Adam Abdullah take to Twitter to report on the latest building projects. They're using the Twitter hashtag #SaveMaldives to speak out and engage with the authorities.
I think it's a huge risk to base our economy on just the tourism industry alone. In order for proliferation of tourism, we are destroying the very thing which our tourism industry is based on.
These coconut shells have spent 9 months soaking in the mangrove swamp to get them soft enough to gain fibres used for making rope. For 400 women on the island of Kulhotufushi, it's the only source of income, one that is now drying up. Plans are afoot to remove the island's last mangroves to make way for a building project. 70-year-old Aishad Hassan has spent most of her life making rope.
Before the airport was built, the community was asked if we wanted to keep the mangroves, and everyone said yes.
The politicians simply ignored the residents' wishes. That's a problem people on the island of Goradu have been complaining about for 15 years now. Their standoff with the authorities concerns this channel of water. Sand is to be taken from it regularly to preserve the beaches of the resort opposite. It's standard practice in the Maldives. Residents on the island gain nothing from the resort, but sand is being taken away from them. Shazia Ali from Transparency Maldives says the island is shrinking. Trees along the coast are dying as the beach is steadily eroding. She's collecting evidence in a bid to give people here a voice. But they're fighting a powerful opponent.
The current owner is also connected very closely with some of the leaders of this country. So it would really be hard for a commoner or a small community like them, this island, to stand up and fight against them.
I hope that with the new government coming in, they would immediately stop all the resort development projects. But it's very sad that a lot of these projects are continuing.
If we want to preserve our environment, we also need sustainable policy. The Indian Ocean humpback dolphin, for example, is protected, but its habitat isn't. The NGO Terra Conscious is working with fishermen and tourists in Goa to build awareness and introduce responsible tourism practices.
India's beach paradise, Goa, offers the perfect escape to eager tourists seeking adventures on the open sea all year round. And over the years, the region's fishermen have become more and more indulgent of tourists. They've become the main source of income for most families in this region, like Samir Morjes.
We are the traditional fishermen of Goa. When we used to go to catch fish some years back, tourists would come up and say, "Could you take us to the dolphins?" We used to take them and charge anywhere from 100 to 2000 rupees. But we had no clue what a dolphin was. We used to think it's just another fish.
In 2016, Morje met Pooja Mitra, a conservationist working to protect dolphins in the seas of North Goa.
One of the big things we need to remember as humans, and I think this is the underlying principle of my work, is that we don't have a natural domination over everything around us. Everything deserves a life of dignity and compassion and has its own reason for being on the planet, and it doesn't have to justify its existence to us. And unfortunately, people expect everything to be justified in relation to them.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our ocean biodiversity experience.
Mitra started Terra Conscious especially to tackle that mindset and create responsible travel experiences to make boat owners like Morje aware of the environmental damage they could cause.
I said, that I just have 4 things I'd like to say. When we see the dolphin, put off your engine. Stay parallel to the animal if we have to move. Don't cut its path of travel and don't surround it. Can we do these 4 things on the trip? And he said, okay, shouldn't be a problem. You just tell me when you want me to do it, I'll do it.
With a few boat operators like Morje in the fold, it was then time to help tourists understand the concept of compassionate dolphin spotting. Mitra's travel experience for tourists includes a detailed presentation about the 3 kinds of dolphins found in Goa's waters, how they live, how they communicate with each other. The money Terra Conscious earns is used to pay the boat operators and guides who are partnered with them and invested in educational programs. The organization is hoping to expand and so do more to help the impressive Indian Ocean humpback dolphins and other species whose numbers are declining due to the loss, degradation and pollution of their habitat. To raise awareness of the problem, Pooja Mitra takes her tourists to a sandbank after their boat ride to collect garbage and clean it up for the dolphins and also for the birds that use it as a nesting site.
And I must say, every single guest who has come with me, whether domestic or international, has so wholeheartedly and with joy participated in the cleanup. I've had little kids as young as 5 years old having competitions who can pick up more trash and really feeling proud, and kids who have gone back and their parents have texted me and said, my kid is no longer asking for the straw, my kid is no longer asking for small plastic dinky toys which can't be recycled. My kid has said they don't want to do high-speed water sports because it's going to disturb dolphins and turtles.
At 2,500 rupees, that's about 32 euros per adult, Mitra's trip to the dolphins could be called steep compared to the prices before she came into the picture. But with more and more willing tourists, she's a pioneer in marine ecosystem conservation. At the same time, she's creating a sustainable livelihood for the region's fishermen turned tourist boat operators following the decline in the marine fishing industry here.
Well, I think today's stories highlight the increasing need for self-awareness, especially when it comes to our role in the environment we live in. It's up to us to consciously undo the wrongs we've inflicted upon the planet if we want to leave it behind for our coming generations. I hope you had many more takeaways too. We'll be back next week. Until then, goodbye.